The Catch a Break podcast is the insider's guide to breaking into and navigating the entertainment industry with me, Julie Harris Oliver. Project Greenlight is a docu-follow show now streaming on Max about the making of an independent film by an emerging director. On season 4 of Catch a Break, these two shows meet. In Catch a Break, we will bring you the behind the scenes of the behind the scenes. We'll talk to producers, the director, the cast, the department heads to hear what it was really like. Watch the show and then come listen to hear what really happened on Catch a Break wherever you get your podcasts. That season drops on July 13th. You're not going to want to miss it. This is the Catch a Break podcast, the insider's guide to breaking into and navigating the entertainment industry. I'm Julie Harris Oliver. You can find us at catchabreakpodcast.com and all the social media at Catch a Break Pod, as well as all the podcast places. I have another interview for you from The Blackening, this time with creator, writer, co-producer, star Dewayne Perkins, who played the role of Dewayne in this movie. Dewayne Perkins is an Emmy-nominated American comedian, writer, producer, and actor. Some of his other writing and producing credits include NBC's Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Netflix's The Break with Michelle Wolf, Peacock's Saved by the Bell, and The Amber Ruffin Show, to which he was nominated for an Emmy. As an actor, he has appeared on Peacock's Saved by the Bell, Netflix's The Upshaws, as well as The Blackening, a feature he wrote and co-produced that premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival and is playing in theaters now. We talked about the success of this film, the deeper revolution that it is, this moment in his life, and what's the secret sauce to success. Settle in, have a listen. Dewayne Perkins, thank you so much for coming on Catch a Break.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
It's so nice to meet you. First of all, I should say congratulations on The Blackening. What a triumph. It's incredible. It's doing so well. I know it's being received great. How are you feeling right now? It's been open for not even quite a week.
Yeah, it feels good. Like, I think there's like two prongs. There's like a very personal, just very happy that like the end of the journey is still as positive as the beginning. So that's like just very heartwarming. And then there's like a business aspect side of it where I'm like, oh, I've never done this. Like, this is so interesting to just like see the process and kind of gaining a new like litmus as to like this part of the business. That part is like exciting but nervous. Just been like, oh, I don't know like what this means. Like what and especially because of like the strike and kind of like where we are. I'm just curious to know like what this movie being out means for the future of.
Yeah. So is this the first time you've been involved to this extent and in this part of it? Like, are you watching box office numbers?
Yeah. So this is the first film I ever wrote, the first film that I was in. And so I'm just like, and I generally as a person, I love information. I'm just like, oh, like I love figuring out like how a system works. I was a very math and science oriented child. And so in the creative spaces, I'm like, oh yeah, I recognize and love the creative aspect, but also how does the creativity exist within these specific systems that gets to dictate how and when it all works. And so that's the part I'm like, okay, I have to learn that part as well because the creativity doesn't come unless there's that part to it as well.
So you're doing kind of the trial by fire, the business part of it.
Yes. I'm just like, okay. So this is what it means for a movie to be profitable. This is this. Just saying like, okay, I'm seeing kind of where the markers of success are because it seems so drastically different depending on the film.
And how would you describe what you've learned about what those markers are?
It seems a little illogical to me personally. So that's why I'm trying to gain more information. But it comes down to just like profit and how much money is being put in versus how much money is coming back. So that part is just like interesting because it's all relative to like the price point.
Yeah.
Which is something that I just learned to be like, okay, now I can see how this movie can make millions and millions of dollars and still be considered a flop because of how much money was put into it. And then a movie can make not as much money, but because it was made for a lot less, that is still seen as like profitable next to each other, which is interesting, but also strange.
Yeah, because you have what it costs to make the movie. You have all the marketing of it. And it's gone through several hands. I know it was financed by MRC, produced by Catchlight Studios, being distributed by Lionsgate. Well, let's touch on that for a minute. Because Lionsgate came in at the end to distribute it, you didn't really have a studio overlord while you were making it. So what was that experience like?
Um, it still felt like MRC functioned as a studio, as far as I would say, in terms of like the partnership and kind of the who gets to kind of like dictate or like give notes. So there was still, from my point of view, like people that we had to appease in some way. Um,
Creatively?
yeah, I mean, like they're like paying for the movie, so if they're like, "Hey, we think this is a thing," you can't just be like, "No." You have to
They,
like
they
at
can ask some
least,
questions, I guess.
yeah, like, and so just having other voices to consider was new for me because I come from like improv, sketch, stand up, where I'm writing a lot just from my own point of view. And then in television, the jobs that I've had was always me working to further someone else's vision, and I'm just like adding my thought. Versus this was so much from me, so that was a new experience to have a clear vision and then collaborating to be like, okay, so this is going to be out is now outside of me, and it's a bigger system that is now at play. But I would say because MRC was good creative partners, they really allowed us the freedom to just like do what we wanted to do, and they were very open to listening to like the reasoning behind what we wanted to do. And I think because of that, we were able to make a successful film that felt authentic to what to the original vision that we had.
How is that just for you to make that shift from I'm going to add my contribution or I'm writing for myself or I'm all doing the creative thing to make that shift to allow in other collaborators? Because I know like just notes are hard, right? To take in and think about and adjust your creative vision. What did you kind of have to do personally to get to that collaborating space?
Well, I feel very naturally a fan of collaboration. Most of the things that I've done were very ensemble based. Like improv and sketch is all about the ensemble. It's all about figuring out what we can make together. So I don't have an aversion to collaboration generally. I would say the thing that was shocking was kind of the position that the writer plays in features versus in TV.
Oh,
Because in
yeah, really different.
TV, the writer is like the top, the like they're the creator, the showrunner. Like they have a certain position where their opinion is prioritized. Whereas in writing, I realize often the writer and features, the writer is very seen of service, where you do a thing, and then that
Hmm.
script is taken and given to people, and then you're kind of like, thank you so much for the
See ya.
contribution.
We got it.
And so that realizing that like that is the position that the writer plays in features, that was shocking to me. So I was like, but I know the most about this.
Well, and also you were there, which doesn't always happen.
Yeah, and so that was something that I feel is unique, it's just being a multi hyphenate and being able to kind of wear different hats in that space. So I do think if I was not in it and a producer, the experience would have been very different. So I'm still very grateful that I got the opportunity to still be in the room to continue to kind of push the vision that I had. And then having partners like Tracy and Tim who were very much like, yes, do not ever feel not empowered to speak up. Like, this is still yours. We understand how writers usually function. We're not doing that here. You like this is your baby. Like, we get it. So having
That's
those
great.
partners, I think, really painted the experience in a much more positive light than I assumed it would be, just knowing the kind of power that writers have in features.
Yeah. Okay, can we go way back and we ask everyone on the show, what was your very first job in the business and how did you get it?
What would I consider my first job? I would consider my first job. Would would you say acting, writing? Like which part? Just like
Like
my first job period.
when you first felt like, oh, I've been hired to do a creative thing as a job.
Yes. So like creatively, I think my very first. I really want to like nail like get this right, because I'm like curious, like what would I consider my first creative job? Let's say my first creative job was I was hired to be an interior designer for this company called Potbelly. It's a sandwich shop, and in
Okay.
Chicago, I was in art school and I was working as a sandwich artist at a restaurant, and they put up a sign in the break room, being like, "Hey, the corporate, like the higher ups, looking to hire like a young, cool, hip, like artist." For a project. And I was like, well, I'm young, I'm cool, I'm hip. Hire me. And so they hired me to redesign a bunch of restaurants across the country to like do research on the places and just like find like cool art, suggest like how to like where to hang it. So that like I feel like that was like the first time that I was like being paid to like be creative, to be like, hey, you have a vision. Here's money to like go figure out what to do with that. And then specifically within like comedy, I think being hired to work at Second City was like one of those moments to be like, okay, like I'm being paid to specifically do comedy. And then industry wide, like bigger, I would say my first job was Wildin' Out on MTV with Nick Cannon. That was like right after Second City. And that was like my first like industry job. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm on TV. I made it. And then my first writing job was The Break with Michelle Wolf on Netflix. Yeah.
I love that your first job was a sandwich shop designing. That was not what I expected.
I've had a life.
You can do all the things.
Yeah, I mean, like I do think just generally art is so connective, and all of the things that I've done kind of feed into each other.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I've heard the story several times that you did The Blackening as a sketch with Pete, and now it's a movie, and I haven't heard a lot of details in between. So can you talk us through how it went from, because it took, what, 5 years from the sketch to the movie coming out? Is
Yeah,
that right?
yeah, and it was I wrote the original sketch in 2016. So I was doing,
Okay.
yeah. So I was doing a show at Second City called Afrofuturism. It was like their first like all black like sketch variety show. And we needed an opening scene for that show. So I wrote The Blackening. It was then called Horror Story. And I wrote it for that show. We did it. It was a hoot. And so we kept doing it. It became like the official opening for that show. And then Second City did a theatrical production in DC at Woolly Mammoth called The Black Side of the Moon. And I was in that show. So that sketch then became the opening for that show. And then from there, Pete got a web series deal with Comedy Central. So we had to pitch sketches. And I was like, oh, I would love us to do this sketch because it has only been on stage
And it was
where,
a hit.
yeah. And so like when it was on stage, I was like, oh, like there's just not enough, like if we film it, we could really nail the tone. Because on stage, you're just like pretending and like we're in a house. You have like
Yeah.
lights at best. So when I pitched it to Comedy Central, they were like, "Yes, this is the first sketch that we're gonna film." So then we filmed it. It was a dream to film, and then they put it out, and it went viral. And it got, I think, like 15 million views in like a couple of days on Facebook, and
Wow.
then on YouTube, it was like hundreds of thousands. Then it started being posted everywhere. And then Tracy Oliver, she saw it. Yeah. And then she called me and said, hey, this should be a movie. But yeah, she called the theater that Pete had our show at. She got my information. She called us and was like, hey, I think this should be a film. Who wrote it? And Pete was like, Dewayne wrote it. This is his sketch. And she was like, okay. So then we partnered with Tim Story and we took it out. And I remember that was the first pitch I ever took out. And there was 9 pitches set up. And the day before the first pitch, they were all canceled. And I was like, what is happening? And I was so anxious. And I was like, and
Wait,
because this
all
is
of
all
them were
new to
canceled?
me, yes. And I was
You're
like,
like, something's
why are we
up?
not doing these pitches no more?
Yeah.
So then I think like 2 days went by where I was like, what is happening? Oh my God. And then I got a call from the producer being like, oh, no. Like there was just like an offer before we had to do it. They just want to buy it.
Like, don't worry. We sold it before you ever had to pitch it.
Literally never pitched it. Not a single pitch. MRC just said, okay, we see the package, we saw the sketch, this is enough. Okay, give it to us. So then, yeah,
Wow.
then it, yeah,
Wow.
and then it went into development. We went in, kind of showed, like, told them like what it would be. They said, great, go do it. Then we did it.
Amazing.
Thanks.
Amazing.
It is. It's kind of crazy in hindsight looking at it. You'd be like, wow, this really worked out.
Yeah. I think it's worked out just fine. So then going from that, I just got to ask, how did it feel to be, and this is the one I can't get over. How did it feel to be at the Apollo screening this movie?
Oh man, that was it's okay. So like the kind of the whole process has felt similar to where every step I'm just like, what is happening? How did we get here?
What's
What?
happening right now?
And the Apollo specifically was like one of those moments. Like the Apollo, Kiki Palmer, like just like kind of all of it, the culmination of this project. I still think I'm like processing it because it has been like so positive in a way that's like shocking. Because as a person, I'm pretty like chill and low key, and I'm just like, what happened? What happened? I'm very open to like positive, negative. There's balance in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for this project, it's just been so significantly positive that I'm just kind of like shocked, just very grateful. Getting to rub the stone, it was one of the best moments of my life so far. So yeah, I'm still just kind of gagged by it. I'm just like, what?
I mean, it feels big. And I've just met you, but it feels to me like this may be one of those moments where it's like a before and after, like
Yeah.
everything changed.
Yeah, yeah. Even within like the film being out for like a week, I went to this like party, and there were so many people just been like, "Hey, I saw your movie! Like, congrats!" And I was with three friends, and it happened like the first couple times. We were like, this is so cool! Like, what? That's crazy!" And then it kept happening, and then it kept happening, and then I was like, "Okay, I'm trying to stay pretty grounded, but this is crazy, right?" And they're like,
But I think I'm famous
"Yeah,
now.
like what?" And so like even it's already been like shifts in small ways that I am just so shocked about. Maybe that's something I got to work through therapy. That my expectations are always so low, but I'm just like, I don't know. If you don't expect crazy things, you can't be disappointed. And now I'm like, I should have expected more because this is crazy.
It's so wonderful. Um, Now, this film is so funny. I just laugh the whole time. It's also so scary. And I also know it's deeper than that, right? You were really confronting, I think, a lot of things with this film. And I'd love it if you could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's very layered. Um, because like on the surface, the purpose is just fun. It's
Yeah.
entertainment. Like it's an entertaining movie. We did not have a goal to be like, we want to make a statement specifically about black people for this, this, and this. Um, we just wanted to make an entertaining movie that had a bunch of black people in it, which inherently became a statement because that's not a thing that happens often. And so, because we knew that, like, oh, this act within itself is just new, therefore it's going to say something, it was impossible not to have said something. It was impossible not to have deeper meanings because just by allowing these characters in particular to be as unapologetically themselves is an act of like revolution. I'd be like, oh, like we're like
Yeah.
doing a thing, even like allowing like a black queer lead to like just exist. There was just so many ways in which I and Tracy have consumed media, and we wanted to attack this in a way in where we saw blackness as universal, that we were not creating something niche. We were creating an entertaining movie that everybody could watch with very specific characters. And because we have a certain lived experience, we were able to imbue these characters with that, which made them feel real, which made people be invested in whether they die or not.
Yeah.
And and in doing so, it also showed a lot. We were not concerned with like telling. where you're like, we don't have to be like, black people are different. Like, you see 7 black people being different. That's enough. Like, we're doing it, like, just by
Yeah.
existing in this way that feels unfiltered. And so, yeah, it was mainly just us wanting to have fun, wanting to show black people in a range of ways to really push that we are not the same, that we really are universal, that similar to like queerness, being like, if you just allow people to do the thing without biases, they can do anything. Like, this is man made. All of these biases, all of this is, we did that. So just
Made
stop.
it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think just the leaning into it and the specificity just made it all so relatable. We know all these people. We love all these people. Like, you did it. Good job.
Thanks. That feels very good. I'm very happy that a lot of people have really understood what we were trying to do. Because I do think that there is this limitation within media that there's just so few data points as to like the kind of like black horror comedies. Like, even in conversations, it's always like Scary Movie and Get Out.
Mhm.
And why are those the two data points? Because that's all there is. Like, there just hasn't
Right.
been enough. So being able to create something that feels like it's adding to that instead of just regurgitating what is already out there is, like, for me, so fulfilling and makes me feel like, oh, this is like the start of my like creative artistic legacy, which is very cool because I have not felt that till right now.
Yeah, you are in the canon.
I know, that's crazy.
So we only have a couple minutes left, but I have 2 questions I want to throw at you. One would be, what is your favorite memory of making this film? And the other one would be, what advice do you have for people who are trying to do what you do? Go.
Outside of the Apollo, I would say TIFF was kind of mind blowing because up until that time, I've never associated what we were doing kind of with the prestige of film festivals. I just kind of,
So
from the
that's
outside
Toronto.
looking, yeah. So from the outside looking in, I was just like, oh yeah, like, we're just making our cute little movie. We're gonna do our thing. But those spaces always felt very like just homogeneous in the sense of like, oh yeah, like, black gay people ain't there doing stuff.
Right.
And so the film to be seen in that kind of light, there was also kind of a shift in my career where there was a level of prestige that I just did not know that would be associated to this film. And I love, like, I have my opinions, and I think that they're very strong, and people can't change them. Like, I know what I feel. So for the industry to actively agree, but yeah, we also think it's good. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then Midnight Madness. That was the first time I've ever seen a theater feel like a sporting event. It was like uproarious. There was like beach balls. I was like, I've never experienced like theater in this way. And so it kind of just showed me like a new way to consume art, and I was obsessed with it. I said, yeah, this was like a concert. Like, this is how movies should be. So that was like one of the best moments of this whole process. And then to answer the second question, any advice I would give? It's kind of like something that I think was very helpful for me is recognizing what I could do that nobody else could, and then leaning into that. So the idea, I think, similar to my perception of like the Toronto Film Festival, from the outside in, when you don't see yourself, you start to think, this is not made for me. This is going to be too hard. Like, there's not a roadmap for me to do that. And at some point in my career, I realized that that was the freeing part of being like, okay, if there's no roadmap, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. I'm going to do
You're
this,
gonna
then I'm gonna
make it.
pivot. I'm gonna do this, then I'm gonna do that. Like, there's no, if there's no rubric for me, that means I am unlimited. I can just do it as I see fit for myself. And so I do feel my journey is very specific to me. So it's very hard to be like, just do what I did. I'm like, that's not gonna work.
Nope.
And so I would say to kind of have the same mindset that I did when I was doing it, which is, I am me. No one else is me. No one else can do what I can do specifically. Nobody has had the combination of the lived experiences that I have. Nobody have the exact skill set that I have, and kind of knowing that that was my power and leaning into that. Like I don't necessarily like I don't cold switch anymore. Like I just don't do any of the things that I felt was needed of me because I recognize in these spaces they need me. Like it's a like it's a back and forth. Like it's not just me asking for things. It's me creating art so that they can make profit. Like this is also a collaboration, and recognizing like your worth and your like what you bring to that collaboration, I think is essential so that you can move without fear. Because I think fear is the antithesis of art. You're not creating in your fullness. So I think like that is the advice that I would give is like figuring out exactly how you can be your strongest self and retain that. It's so like basic, but like confidence, like actual confidence, like just like being confident in the things that you do. Like I didn't know that like writing that sketch would be a movie years later, but I was
Life
confident that
changing.
like I could write a good sketch. I was like, I know what sketch is. I write sketch, so I'm going to write this sketch. Also, just doing things, I think changes a lot, and that speaks back to the fear, where I think a lot of fear stops people from like doing the thing because they're judging the thing. They're like, is this good enough? And I just think that we are much harder on ourselves than the industry like need us to be. Things are not good. I always tell people like, don't compare yourself to the person doing it the best. Compare yourself to the person doing it the worst because they're doing it and it's not good. So
But
like
they're
you can
still
do
doing it.
it, like, and they're still doing it. Like, who's to say like what's good and bad? Like that is so objective, and the difference from some person doing it and it's bad, and somebody doing it and it's not, is that they're doing it. So just do it and then learn as you go.
It struck me when you said, I don't code switch anymore. That, and you, as a brush off statement, that's fucking huge what you just said.
Yeah, like I've sold like TV shows like in a do-rag. Just be like, yeah, man, hey, this is what it is. Like you're hiring me because I have a voice, I have a skill set that you
Yeah.
need. Why would I change that?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no purpose.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Dewayne Perkins, thank you so much. And congratulations on the film, on this moment, on everything. I cannot wait to see the rest of your career.
Thank you so much. This was a pleasure.
This has been Catch a Break. I'm Julie Harris Oliver. I'd like to thank our guest, Dewayne Perkins, for this conversation. And special thanks to Groovy.com, a dynamic platform that connects people to productions worldwide. Please check out our website at catchabreakpodcast.com and follow us on all the social media. Catch a Break is produced in partnership with Catchlight Studios and the Other 50%. Our theme music, Mantra for a Struggling Artist, was composed by Andrew Jocelyn. Thanks for listening. Be sure to mark your calendars for July 13th. That's when Project Greenlight and our Project Greenlight season starts dropping. I hope this helps you to catch a break.